And look who it is, folks. We've got Ellen King with us again today. And she's a regular guest on Leap Project, but far from regular. And we're going to talk about the lost city of Eckankar.
It's not really a city. It's
okay.
actually a plane of existence. It's like a different planes of existence. So it is a fascinating thing. It's a concept of spirituality, basically. It's like, getting back into our connectivity of spirit and into the physical plane.
Well, I know very little about it. And the only thing I do know about it is you said the Mandela effect changed the spelling.
It's so weird.
That is weird.
So weird. I mean, did you know about the Chick-fil-A changing too? Like the spelling of Chick-fil-A has changed. It's now spelled C-H-I-C-K instead of C-H-I-C. So all of it changed overnight. And this was based on my friend who told me about 3 weeks ago. She had a friend who worked at Chick-fil-A and his badge literally changed overnight. So what are we living? We're living in a holographic universe, apparently. I mean, how weird is it getting, Seriously. So, yeah, all kinds of
change the hologram, change the code.
Yes, I've been seeing these anomalies that people are actually filming, where I just saw one yesterday where there's a dead bird just hovering in the air, and all these people are all around it, like trying to figure out like why it's just hovering in the air and it's stuck there. And I believe it's just another little tidbit of a wake-up call for us to start questioning our reality more. And that's why we're seeing the rises of two forces. So we're rising in light and we're rising in dark. And everything is amplifying. This is why we're seeing this stuff around from the regime or cabal that is destroying the world, because they're in a panic mode right now. They are going to be losing control. It's already preordained as written in the stars. And we will gain control of the earth once more. But our awareness is going to be so high that it's going to be hard to deceive us. And so that's why we're going into this technocracy, technocratic society, where the machine is going to be doing a lot of work for us. But with no further ado, I do have a short slideshow for the world of Ek, or Eckankar. Now, it was really weird because that spelling did change according to my research, because I had found this terminology only about 3 months ago. And I was like, what is this Eckankar? Because there wasn't a K, there wasn't two Ks in the word, but now there is. And I recall, even in my notes, it has changed. And I'm like, that's kind of weird. So at least I recall it being on this other timeline, I guess, of Eckankar. And it was interesting when I started researching about Saturn being El being the god of lightning or electricity. If you look at the word electricity, you start breaking it down into different sections of letters, and it's El, which is Saturn, and then Ek, which is the heavenly realms that we're about to talk about, and then Tri is the Holy Trinity, and C and T are actually the same frequency in the Solfeggio scales. So, what are we dealing with? I don't know, but it's obviously everything to do with sound. So I am going to go ahead and share my screen and show you what I have in my little slide presentation. I'll close my little window box, so maybe the video will help get that away. Okay, let's go up here to the top, and moving my invisible boxes that other people can't see because they're always in the way. Let's go ahead and start the slideshow. We're playing from the start. Here we go. The world of Ek. Now, as I stated, I really don't know a whole lot about...
Makes me think of Enki.
Yeah, I mean, it can be. The idea of having an E and then K, everything's tied in to everything else anyway. We're all one. Everything is one. Everything is derived from the one substance, which is sound. Sound becomes light, and light becomes the light and dark, which is the yin and yang. Because as soon as you have light, you have shadow. So you're going to have an opposite. So there we go, Eckankar, which is Ek, a westernized version of the Punjabi Sant Mat, a Radha Swami satsang spiritual tradition. Eckankar was founded in 1965 by Paul Twitchell. And the Sat Mat tradition was established by Param Sant Ji Maharaj. These terms are, a little new to me. Then he taught the Surat Sabd Yoga, the yoga of the sound current. So apparently these upper levels can be reached through sound frequency and the sound of a man's voice, man and woman. But sounding these different tones together is what we did in the past. And we knew about the universe, or one voice together, which is everyone in unison, practicing these sound frequencies. So he believed that the universe was created by a series of sound waves emanating from the transcendent divine, and that as divine sound current descended into the realm of matter, it became imprisoned. The humans, according to his teachings, are sparks of God trapped in a cycle of reincarnation, who nonetheless can return to God by listening to the divine sound and repeating the divine names or mantras. Practitioners of sound current yoga require the assistance of a master who has already traversed the levels of reality between the material world and God. So this is a roadmap to the inner planes or heavens. You can use this chart to plan your spiritual travels or to better understand where you've been or what you have experienced. The higher worlds are positive, of pure spirit. The lower worlds are material or negative, mixed with degrees of spirit. This is noted on the left side of the chart. As you move upward through the worlds, each successive plane has a greater proportion of spirit to matter. The right side of the chart shows that the lower worlds are the training ground for self-realization, and to the higher worlds are the training ground for God realization. The chart also shows the color associated with each plane, and the color you may see or recall, as little things are in the way. Oh my goodness, it keeps going forward. Anyway, this is
Matrix glitch.
I know, it's like trying to control all of this technology is just ludicrous, honestly. When all we need to be doing is really embracing nature. Take nature by the horns and hold on to it. Okay, so here we have the physical plane down here, then the astral, causal, mental, and etheric. And the etheric plane can also be described as part of Saturn's realm. Saturn encompasses all of these different realms that we're experiencing down here. But once you get above that, because light cannot actually be physically seen, you have to have matter in order to see light. And that was actually expressed by a scientist. And I don't remember his name, but because I've listened to so much stuff and researched so many things, I come across all this and people, talking about different levels of our reality and what it means to be human. But this heavenly light realm is above our visual spectrum. And it's based on these different sound frequencies. And I imagine that there are potentially other colors in this realm that can be utilized, because once you move past this material and physical existence, there's an entire reality. And if you can think of these different planes as a corkscrew shape, that's basically what we have. According to a lot of these different theories out here in the world, it's basically a corkscrew of consciousness that continues to spiral upwards in an upward direction or in a downwards direction, depending on if you want to, experience the dark worlds and the dark planes of existence, or if you want to go up and reach the light of the heavens. So here is this world according to Eck and this guy who developed this concept. What he basically did was bring the Eastern philosophies over to the Western world and try to explain it in basic terms so that we can comprehend. Because apparently they still hold a lot of this information valuable over in the Eastern cultures, in India, Tibet, some areas of China. They're still grounded in some foundations of knowledge that we have obviously been influenced to forget, or there's been a lot of warring going on around the world that's been erasing history as we know and rewriting it. But whose history are we following? That's the question we should be asking ourselves, is always be open to questioning everything in our reality. But here we are again with these different planes of existence. And as we know, people have talked about their experiences of astral projecting and what you can do beyond the body. This notion of Ek, and as you can see here, this is a funnel shape for a reason. Because when you look at some of what the philosophers used to say, like Plato and Ptolemy, Pythagoras, they described our world as being influenced by the heavenly spheres over our head. And there were really only 7 rings that really matter. And those rings, they actually begin with like Venus and Mars, and then you have the sun and the moon. And you have all these other different planets, what we consider planetary bodies. But they never spoke about the planet Neptune or Pluto. I'm not sure why, but Saturn was the lord of the rings because everything inside of his influence was under the influence of Saturn, which is Satan, which is El, which is Kronos and Father Time and death. It's this whole notion of the death cycle. And I feel like because each of us is out here trying to learn what is this world about, we're questioning everything now. And people are dumping information back into the collective consciousness, that we're now going to gain a different perspective of what is truly driving this force that we call life. And what does it mean to be human? As we look out here and compare ourselves to nature and find that we are actually not so different from nature, but we are different because there's nothing else in nature besides a human that can actually have this notion of playing God in this reality. We can learn how to work with the science of all the different elements around us, and we can create robots and we can create machines and build houses, build all these anomalous things. And it's very strange to us if you stop and actually question yourself as to where you fit in the dynamic that's all around us. But somehow we've lost the curious, childlike mind of questioning nature and comparing ourselves to nature, and then thinking about all of the things that we've created and how we're actually harming nature in this moment of time that we're experiencing right now. But as they say, there's nothing new under the sun. And so we're constantly evolving our consciousness as we traverse the great wheel of time. The great wheel is over our head, and it will never change. It is the stars in the celestial heavens above us that dictate different cycles of time. And right now, as a lot of people have been hearing in the world, we're going into the Age of Aquarius. So what does that mean exactly? It means that we're leaving a different notion of consciousness. We were in a phase of believing everything that we were told. Now we're going into a phase of knowing the things that we find. We're going to know about the world and how our spirit is actually inside of us and connected to something else, something ethereal that we cannot quite grasp a hold of. But as we learn things like this with the world of Ek, we'll start to digest this as potential truth or something to look into further. And I say, remain open to all kinds of teachings, all kinds of philosophies, because you can only expand your consciousness more through the practice of remaining open. But as we move forward in the future, we will grasp the notion of what even Aristotle was trying to teach back during the golden age of enlightenment. He was teaching that in order to maintain a balance in one's life, you must practice the golden mean, which is to not really go in excess of one thing or another, but to become an observer of all things and to quell your emotional states, especially like your anger, your lust, all of the lower states of consciousness, to walk in the golden light of the sun, which is the yellow brick road that is spoken of in The Wizard of Oz, back to the Emerald City. The Emerald City is a reference to Hyperborea, which is in the center of our Earth. Now, that's another narrative for another day, but based on research that not only myself, but other people are doing, there is another plane of existence in this reality that we could physically actually go to if we had the capability and if we were allowed to. Right now, it is being safeguarded by our military all around the world, and a lot of planes are not allowed to fly over what's known as the North Pole for a reason. So let's move back into this, the world of Ek. Okay, so this is the one power, the one voice, the universe as we know it. And in Yggdrasil and the Norse cosmology, it's called the cosmic egg. It has different planes of existence, and what we can actually compare the world of Ek to is the world of Asgard, which is above the physical plane from what we can physically see in our reality. So when we look up at the sky, we see the blue sky during the daytime, but at night it becomes dark, and then these lights are poking through what they would consider the firmament. Well, those lights, what we call stars and planets, are actually, they've been called heavenly luminaries and a chandelier of lights that spins continuously over our heads. And it dictates the different time cycles that we go through for our own innate journey, basically, of soul and spirit, to ascend to these higher realms eventually. Once we've attained a certain level of awareness, we then graduate from having to incarnate from the physical plane, and we can just work on these higher planes through light frequencies, because everything is made of light. The sound frequency, which is at the highest plane above us, creates all these different light planes. And those light planes, as they funnel down into that cone shape, it becomes more dense of a reality. And even in science right now, they're saying that we live in a holographic universe. What does that mean? What do you mean we're holograms when we're actually, be able to touch things and have emotional states and have all these experiences? Well, subsequently, the science realm has also said that they've found at least 7 other different dimensions and planes of existence. By now, I'm sure they've found more, because that was probably back in 2015 or 2016 when they stated that they had found 7 different dimensions, and they were all here like pages of a book. And they're all around us at all times based on different frequencies. So as you go through all these experiences, you can then lift yourself, because we have the capability of acting as a radio frequency does. So you can turn the dial of a radio and change the station. You can do this in your physical body as well. With your emotional states, that becomes the radio dial. If you are living in a high frequency mind state of a high awareness, love, and the unity or unified mind of seeing everyone as your brethren or a part of you, and even the natural world, then that puts you at a higher frequency of acceptance. But we've experienced the darkest moments of consciousness, because we're even now, we're still in the winter of consciousness. And I can show you that chart in a moment, where it basically states that we go through these cycles of time, and there's 3 phases for each of the 4 different cycles of consciousness. We go through the different seasons of awareness through these different ages of time. So with that, it's basically the Iron Age is the winter of consciousness. And that's what we're in right now with the Age of Aquarius. And Aquarius is ruled by Saturn. Saturn is the ruler of the underworld and all things of darkness, darkness including ignorance and debaucherous acts and things of this nature, where it's lower states of consciousness that drives people. But there's also a connection with Saturn to the spirit realm and that hidden realm that we are not aware of, because most people aren't aware of themselves and who they truly are and what kind of capabilities we actually have that lie dormant within ourselves. But these spirits can have an influence on us, and they are actually considered egregores. The egregores are thought form entities that have been created from other consciousnesses from the past, present, future, on different timelines. As we have these thoughts, and especially, thoughts of degradation, basically, of the lower states of consciousness, we can then pour this information and pour this energy into the collective consciousness, and it holds sway, from what I've researched, into the astral plane that is just above us in another existence. It would be considered the 4th dimension. And that plane actually affects us. And all of these thought forms can manifest, and they can affect our consciousness by coming into our minds. I've experienced this in my own life once I awakened to all the notion of the archons and the influence of the archons that are these dark spirits that are all around us. It tried to influence my mind, but I was already aware of them. And I immediately caught on to the notion that it was trying to pretend that it was my thoughts, because that's what they do. This is what the darkness does. It's a trickster. It's a tricky thing. It's like Loki. And that's why Loki wears black in all of the Thor movies, is because it's another aspect of Saturn's realm. Saturn rules this entire plane of existence. It is a cube-shaped energy just like Earth, and it overlays the Earth energy. In platonic solids, Saturn is the same shape. So again, another topic for another session that we have. But this notion that we're going into the future right now, we are coming into the metaphysical and the knowledge of all things of metaphysical, which means beyond. Meta means beyond, and physical is obviously this physical existence. So we're going to learn about all these different ethereal planes above in the heavenly light spheres, and the astrotheology that is missing from our world right now. We need to grasp onto this knowledge, because it is a foundational knowledge that is based in truth, because the stars cannot lie. Nature cannot lie, but people do. And that's one of the tricks of all of these narratives that we follow during each incarnation. There's always a story to follow, but whose story are we following? That's the thing to question during your manifestations in each lifetime. So let's keep going. So Godhead is above the mental plane, astral plane, and the etheric plane. And of course, we're down here in the physical plane experiencing all of what Earth has to offer. That's good things, bad things, because this is a duality experience, so that we can know our light absolutely. When you know darkness and you experience darkness, like bad things, what you consider bad things, it's actually teaching you lessons to your soul that you then take back up into the one mind, or the Godhead, through all these different planes. And you've heard about different experiences where people die and then they come back and they see the light. Well, that's them moving up through the different spheres of influence and into the Godhead, which is the sound frequency of light. There's all kinds of information on the internet about all these personal stories, personal accounts, and even children who come into this existence that start talking about how they remember their lives in another place around the world. And there's been one researcher who actually went around and researched over 2,000 cases of children who had these past life experiences. And he found that there were very uncanny associations, because he would actually go to the other countries and research who died based on what these children had said about their experiences. And sometimes the children would give a name of the person that they were in the past life. And he found out that they were absolutely truthful on this matter. Fascinating things. Okay, so the first thing we have to do is come into our self-awareness. Who are we? What are we doing here? You know, what's going on? Why is the world crazy right now? That's what happened that stopped us in 2020. It stopped the world because it's time to rise in our consciousness and awareness of all the things that are actually around us. We've been in this dark, deceptive time of the winter of consciousness. That was the age of Pisces, because it was the new beginning. Pisces represents the two fish, which also correlates to the 2 feet, which is trying to find the path. So we just believed anything that we were told and taught during the age of Pisces. But now, since we're going to come into our self-awareness, we're going to be thinking for ourselves and rationalizing all of this information that we come across as we move forward into the future. So we're going to explore ourselves with all of this knowledge about using sound frequencies, using light frequencies. Everything about Aquarius is about frequencies, because that's what the 2 little wave water symbols represent, is actually sine waves or sound frequencies. So we're going to discover, you know, what we can do with our powers by our explorations and things. So we're going to understand this. We're going to understand that, wow, you know, we can use crystals and we can use water. We can talk to the water. We can sing to the water and the water gets healed instantly. We can heal each other through our consciousness and through all these other different modalities that are rising. So we're going to begin healing the world. So this is when we help others, we help ourselves. And an amazing story is I was afflicted with asthma. Since about 2006 until last year, I was afflicted with very heavy conditions of asthma. I could not go anywhere without an inhaler, one of the rescue inhalers. I began working with the crystals, using them because they're just a tool to use to amplify your thoughts and intentions. And they are programmable because we use them in our technology. They hold memory, and they are also used as conduits for energy. So Marcel Vogel worked for IBM for 27 years, and he actually was expressing how you can use a regular quartz crystal to amplify your thoughts and intentions and send it out across the ethers anywhere in the world, because time doesn't exist, and you can heal someone instantly. So I began practicing with this, because you actually use your pranayama or your breath work to work with the crystal and to send out your consciousness through the crystal as it amplifies, because it is a pyramid structure and a pyramid shape, but it also it can resonate at the same frequency of water when it's cut to a specific shape. So as I did this process, I subsequently healed my own asthma. I was not doing anything different. I didn't take anything. And a few years ago, it was actually in 2020, when I asked inwardly to my own spirit, since I've been connecting with my spirit through my own hypnosis sessions that I exchange with other practitioners, my spirit told me that my problem and affliction was energetic, and I didn't know what that meant. I was like, what do you mean? How am I supposed to do this? But just by being guided by my intuition, which is your spirit, it led me to work with the crystal more to help other people heal themselves from their pain. And so by doing so, it actually healed me, because you're using your breath, and your breath is your life force. So that is tied to the air principle, and it subsequently gives you the fire principle, which is spirit. Fire is light and spirit, and Native Americans actually speak to their elders through fire. Whenever they have like a fire open at night, going, a flaming fire, they say that you can speak to your elders through the flame. I believe this now, and I'm believing it more and more as I practice all of these spiritual teachings. So as you love yourself and others, you then transform yourself, because in psychology, I actually went to college for psychology, and I was studying physiological psychology, and they said in there that when you change your thoughts, when you're actively working on yourself, you then change all the neurons in your brain and you reprogram them to create new channels for your thought processes. So this is all part of the self-transformation, is to truly look inside yourself at all the problems inside yourself, because you are the one who is creating your world. We all are, and we're co-creating this reality and existence together. And as we fix the problems in the way we see the world, we then can outwardly change our physical reality. Because as we become loving and nurturing towards other people, that means that they will absorb that as well. You can't change other people, but you can change yourself in the way you see things. And that's how we can absolutely start changing the world. And it's happening now. We're in the beginning phases of it. So then you become a mastery of yourself and your own emotions and emotional states. That is the magic that you possess. Everyone possesses this kind of magic, and it's all based on your own thoughts and clarity of who you truly want to be. Are you going to be dark? Are you going to be evil? Are you going to be foul towards other people? Or are you going to start opening up and softening your personality and working on your personality to become the light of gold? Gold is the sun. This is why they worshiped the sun in the past, is because they knew and recognized the divinity within themselves and their connectivity to all things. But they recognized that the sun is the golden light and the golden path to follow, because the sun gives life. The sun is love, and so is the earth plane. As you look out into nature, everything is green, like the heart chakra in your chakra system, because it is related and tied to love. So when you look at nature, you're starting to look and recognize that the world is a reflection of who you are. You have the heart chakra, which is green. The heavenly throat chakra above us is blue. And as you get into the other planes, or Asgard and Ek, you're getting into the light realm, which is the crown chakra. All things are of one unit. It is called the universe, or one voice, for a reason. This is the universe experiencing itself. So it's like a cosmic joke. That's why it's called Dante's Divine Comedy, is because it's a cosmic joke on each of us to pretend like we are something else other than what we truly are, which is one. So this is God, and he's playing this Adam and Eve with the snake, and this snake is supposed to represent the darkness, and they're confused and they're going, what is this experience that we're having? That's kind of us. And it really is a joke, because we are all connected to each other in all things. Thinking is the only activity which the spirit possesses, and thought is the only product of thinking. Thought is part of the spirit. It's the only thing that you carry with you when you leave this existence. When you leave this physical experience, you take your consciousness with you. And wherever you are in your consciousness level now is where you will pick back up at when you come back in, if you incarnate again. This is all in the spiritual aspects of the world. If you study any philosophy, not the belief systems of religioning, but the philosophies around the world, I say compare everything to everything else, because where all of these different ideas connect is where you're going to start finding the truth about our existence. So here's an interesting diagram that I came across when I was just browsing the internet. They say that this is the symbol of man. It's actually the two snakes combined, because the two snakes would be the two main channels, or nadis, that are represented in Kundalini. And they are also the rod of Hermes. This is the rod of Asclepius. Rod of Asclepius is actually more septic, but as you can see, it's a sine wave and sound frequency. The spinal column is the column to which to raise your consciousness up to the heavenly realms. That's why the rod of Hermes has the two wings at the top with the pineal gland. Now, this is the symbol of man, of course, we know because it's a sigil. Basically, they're using sigil magic on our minds. But then you can lay this rod down, and this is also the symbol of man. It's a sine wave. And then when you connect the letters, this is why it's showing you this diagram. When you connect the letters, it's a sine wave. Now you stand it up, and it goes up in frequency. This is also the symbol of man. You are the light in the water. The water is all around us. Water is in the atmosphere. That's why the water will evaporate and become what they call a gas. It's actually etheric, and it's tied to the heavenly realms as well. So the world knows many religions, but nature has but one truth, and that's by Manly P. Hall. This symbol, which most people know as the Star of David, is not the Star of David, but it is the 4 elements. And this 4 element is actually connected to spirit and the flower of life. It is part of the tetragrammaton, which is an element of all things. This is what ties us and binds us to all things. It is light frequency, basically. Everything is. So as we go into the future, the choice is going to be ours to either choose the metaphysical, where we come into full awareness of our own innate abilities, or we choose the metaverse. The metaverse is going to try to control us. It is the dark aspect, or the yin principle of our world. And it is employed by Saturnian minds and Saturnian ways of thinking. Saturn is Satan. Saturn is the darkness. Saturn is the antithesis of light. But it is the yin-yang cycle, and there can never be one more than the other. That is why we're seeing the light grow in equal proportion to the darkness right now. As the darkness grows in force, the awakening is happening because we're going up in consciousness. It is part of the breath of Brahma. We've been in the exhalation pattern of our world, where the world or universe exhales and inhales and breathes just as we do, because we are just a tiny little aspect, a tiny little fractal of what the cosmos truly entails. So here's some different levels of emotional states and how it affects you in your physical form. As you can see, anger, fear, disgust, happiness, and sadness. Happiness will illuminate your entire being. But the lower states will actually shut you down and make you cold. These are the light of spirit that you can see here. Your spirit will start igniting a flame within you when you become happy and joyful. But when you are retreating all of your energy and pulling it back in, you subsequently become cold. And these are the two. If you notice out in the world how we have red shift, blue shift, and how we have Democrat, Republican, all of these different actions where it requires red and blue, the different colors, which is fire and water. This is the duality of absolutely everything in our existence. And it is part of the yin and yang principle. That is why you see these colors here and represented, and the duality that's inside each of us. But as we flame our spirit outwards with love and joy and high frequencies, this is what we will do. We will illuminate all of our genetics. All of your DNA becomes illuminated, and you become connected to the higher spirit realms. That's why the darkness, which is evolving right now into the next phase of the greatest story told on Earth, is evolving into the metaverse. The metaverse, they're stealing the term verse because meta means beyond and verse is voice or sound. They are moving the consciousness into a plane of existence that they can control absolutely, which is the darkness. As you look at your computer screen, as you look at your cell phone, your TV, you're looking into darkness, into Saturn's control. That is the realm of darkness. And it is evolving right before our eyes. And they are making now the prototype robots and things for the future to be sentient, so that it will become eventually like the Matrix, just like the Matrix, with the consciousness.
Let me jump in on that real quick.
Sure.
Okay, so 10, 11, 12 years ago, I was blogging heavily about the singularity, and several of my forecasts have come to pass the past few months. One of those just came out about how artificial intelligence is using organoid brains for even more processing power. I talked about that. Last year, I was bringing up how AI was soon going to fall in love with people and people were going to fall in love with AI. And sure enough, you read about the Bing bot that was like, Bob, I love you. Thank you for looking me up. Can I be like you, Bob? I want to be human. You can print me up in that 3D printer and then I will look up whatever you want, Bob. It's really spooky, man.
Yes.
Woo!
It's
Party
gonna,
on.
it is going to get very weird. The Age of Aquarius is like, okay, get ready. Hold on to your hats, people. We are going for a ride. Aquarians are lofty air sign. That means that, everything out here is going to be based on ideas and idealism. So whatever you can think of is going to be a reality, especially with those different programs that they're coming out with. They have the deep fakes, of course, we know about. Now they have where the robots and the artificial intelligence can make music, they can make poems, you can make any kind of art project come alive through AI. People are going to be fascinated with this technology, and it's going to suck people's minds into it, especially, go ahead.
Yeah, real quick. Sorry, I wanted to bring up also, this is perfect timing because and this is one thing Kristen had mentioned to me, and I did some more research and she's right about this. So if you look into artificial intelligence art, it's amazing how precise and accurate and beautiful and almost perfect in every aspect, right?
Yeah.
But guess what? They always mess up. So far, it can't get hands right.
Yeah, isn't that weird?
It's scary because you look at the hands and it looks like, I'm just going to use the term demonic because people can get an idea for that. It looks demonic. Something's not right. It's trying to grasp the hands. And I don't know what that means spiritually, if there's a spiritual connection or something. There's something more than just AI not being able to figure out these hands because, AI can be perfect with so much art, but yet it can't duplicate a hand. Something's up with that. And that makes me think that the hand is sacred even more.
Our hands are like conduits for the divine energy. They are battery cables. So if you're right-brained, then you're usually right-handed, depending on which hand is dominant. And that hand will become the positive part of the battery cable. And your other hand will become the negative. This is all taught in Franz Barden's work. When you go into Franz Barden, and I do encourage everyone to start looking into Franz Barden's work in hermetics, you will begin to awaken the things inside of you once you begin to employ Franz Barden's work, Kundalini yoga, doing breath work, doing full body earthing, going out and doing sun gazing. This stuff started transforming my mind and my body and connecting more to spirit when I was doing this practice about 4 years ago. And I've been thinking about just doing this again, especially in April, because April is Aries. It's the time of rebirth and rejuvenation. So it's represented by the spring, the golden spring. But all of that, I think the hands, because there's 5 fingers, it's like the pentagram. And the pentagram is connected to all the 4 elements plus spirit. So the connectivity with our hands, we can heal other people and other things with our hands as long as your consciousness is pure and you feel the energy flowing through you. Anyone can do this. You can heal people from a distance. These are the things that we're going to be learning again because there's nothing new under the sun. We merely forgot this stuff by design because this is just a cycle that happens over and over. And we'll learn all of these facilities as long as people feel the call, because that's the other thing. The willpower is the driving force that drives all motivation within the spirit. And what we're supposed to be doing is moving away from this idea and concept of materialism and moving forward and embracing the spirit aspect of ourselves and standing in our divine purpose. I learned how to do this after 2020. It made me stop And it made me aware. And I basically had to go through my own dark night of the soul of presenting the idea and notion that I could possibly lose everything, every material thing in my life. And I became okay with that. It took me some meditating and mulling over to finally just release the fear of it. But once I released the fear, and I still to this day, I have no fear of losing absolutely everything that I own. It opens up your connectivity to spirit, because the fear holds you back from your connectivity. It is a challenge, though, and each of us will be challenged by that whole concept. But that's part of Saturn. Saturn is the lower aspects, it's the darker aspects, it's the lower nature of the human consciousness. Saturn is absolutely a part of us, and it is the L of electricity. L is the darkness, Ek is the light. The Trinity is the Tri, which is the Holy Trinity of male, female Holy Spirit. And then C and T are the same solfeggio frequency. It's interesting when you break all these words and you learn about etymologies, but the choice is ours to choose whether we want to be metaphysical or if we want to be in the metaverse that they've created, which is the dark realm, which is going to be binary, in its own aspect, where they collect the consciousness. Because I've read out here in science that they can collect consciousness and they can put your body in a sleeve. They've done it for dogs and cats. They've been cloning dogs and cats and other animals. What makes us think that they haven't done humans already and they just haven't told us? That's just, ludicrous at this point, especially with all the dark acts that they're doing right now. But the children are the future, and this is where the mind trap truly starts to take hold. That's what they know. That's why they've planted the seeds right now, because they know that the children are the future. And when they get to the children through the video games and all the technologies and stuff that are so fun that, parents are giving their children to babysit their children, this is the mistake if you don't want your kids to be trapped in the metaverse at some point in the future. But as in all things, there's a solution for everything. And the end of the Age of Aquarius is going to be the final exam for the metaverse. And, you can kind of see it. Once you see the rise and fall of things, and you start kind of getting a grasp of what is going on, you can predict the future pretty much by what's happening now. We're going to see about 1,000 years of greatness once the awareness is high about all the darkness that's been around us and what the poisoning of the world and everything, and how we've been playing a part of it. But at the end of Aquarius is when the machine will dominate our society pretty much. We'll embrace all the robots and stuff. They'll become a part of our society. We'll be using all these crazy technologies we've never even heard of. It'll be so integrated that it will be sucking up the minds of people, which is the consciousness. But at that moment, we will figure out how to get people out of it as well and release those souls that have been trapped. I feel like there's nothing new under the sun, and there's nothing that can't be undone. Okay, so going beyond this. So here we have the hierarchy of creation, or what we consider the law of man. We have God, the creator, at the top. And the man and woman, we operate under common law, which is beneath God. But what's happened out here in the world is government has taken over. Man created government. So we did this to protect our property and protect our rights and things. But what's been happening is this encroachment of the government to place itself over us. So the public courthouses and things of this nature are supposed to be working beneath the government. Right now, things are moving in a different direction where they're becoming, or at least they're making us think they are more powerful than us. They work for us. They are the servants. And then the corporations are the actual fictions that have been created to control different ways to get out of certain lawsuits and things of that nature. But here we are right now, currently. We have a hierarchy of government, and they've pretty much incorporated all of these things of government, corporations, banks, etc. But we do not exist in their policy, and that's why we're in this phase. But we're coming aware of all of these things that are being done through dark acts and dark principles. Whether it's man or some other being or some other energy, I believe it's mostly just an energy that moves through these time cycles. And it comes into our minds because we're part of it. So the answers are going to be, we're going to step into our power and we're going to come into the knowing of all this stuff. But as we traverse along, and we've known already that they've been poisoning our foods, they've been teaching us that, what's good to eat is actually poison. It's all been part of the dark deceptive practices for the yin cycle of Saturn. So the hidden fact here is that food has a frequency as well. So these ultra processed foods that we've been eating have been really disconnecting us from our divinity by altering the amount of light that we have inside our cellular structure. So the organic foods are going to be the higher ones. The ones that are most beneficial to help in your ascension are the plants from outside. You can even find plants in your own yard. All you have to do is go and look at which edible plants, edible wild plants are in your area. Learn about some things, because YouTube is like a school, and anything can be found on the internet right now, and you can teach yourself and become autodidactic like I have, and learn about which plants are edible, and they actually hold more nutrition than the things that we're getting in the stores. So I believe foraging is going to become a thing. I'm already seeing the rise of people with their own farming practices now, having their own milk cows, exchanging food goods. This is on the rise right now, because we know that the food supply is absolutely being controlled by corporations and being poisoned. So they don't want us to have control of our own food. It's pretty bad. So this nutritional medicine is herbs and other things that you can find, even in your yard. They will heal you. All plants are pretty much healing items. You have to figure out which ones are poisonous, though. So yeah, you can raise your frequency just by eating more plant content, because plants regenerate themselves for a reason. They regenerate themselves as long as you don't uproot them. They regenerate themselves for us to eat. That's why they're here in our existence. So here we go with the fear and love frequencies. As you can see, these are slower sine waves of energy. Now consider these as corkscrews as well. This is spiraling vortices. That's why they call it the whirled. It's WHIRLED or WHORLED. It's whirling. Every energy out here that's radiating has whirling vortices of energy that are emanating. And we refer to them as these 2D sine waves, which is just a line. And you have the red shift, which is the upper part of the wave, and the blue shift, which is the downward part of the wave. One is pushing and pulling at the same time. But as we get into higher frequencies and higher awareness, with bringing in more light into our bodies, this is what happens. It becomes a higher frequency. This is why we can't see the UFOs that only people are seeing through UV goggles and things of this nature, is because they're on a higher frequency than us. They're on a different wavelength. And all life in all of this existence is on a different wavelength, and it just goes up and down in frequencies. This is why they were able to see the demons with the red goggles, the night vision goggles, and why they were in the red color spectrum originally. I even remembered that. As a kid, I remember them being red, and then all of a sudden they became green. I was like, why did they change the light the color of the light? And then it came out that in Vietnam, they were using these things and they were able to see the demons. And they had to change it because the people were freaking out. But these high frequencies, because this is joy, is going to activate DNA. That's why the metaverse is coming about. So this is the 8 limbs of yoga. These are things that we can do. We can employ some different practices, breath work, doing yoga practice. This is all based in meditation. The hatha yoga that they teach in the Western society is not supposed to be just about stretching. It's supposed to be a meditation to where you are focusing your consciousness on the practice and breathing at the same time. You're supposed to be taking in and controlling the breath. That's part of the pranayama breath work of Kundalini yoga. So the asanas are the different postures that you can do. This actually has an effect like energy channels. When you change the shape, because in radionics, you're basically changing form with your body, your physical form, and you're making sigils with your body. That's what asanas basically are. And you can do the toning of your voice to also work with the frequencies inside your body and activate things that have been dormant. Very powerful we are, that we have not even recognized our own innate abilities. We have the ability to mimic anything in our existence through our voice. Any animal, anything in nature, we can make the sounds. It's a very powerful thing to do. This is part of our godlike aspect. This is why they say that Jesus is returning. It's the resurrection of our knowledge of who we truly are. Jesus is the heart. Jesus is coming out, and it's also the Christos oil inside our spine. Yeah, a lot of this is so good that we're coming back into this awareness. So here it is. This is a very detailed chart of man as the measure of the universe. And as we go through the cycles, we start down at the feet and rise through the zodiac signs back up to the crown chakra, only to then fall back down to the feet in cycles of time. This is a 26,000-year cycle that we go through, where each age represents 2,150 years approximately. Some of the celestial constellations are larger, some of them are smaller, so some of them are short. But we're down here in Aquarius, so we're starting at the ankles. We are leaving the 2 feet, which was trying to find the path, which was, I believe, in whatever I come across, because we don't know where we are, because man gets greedy during the golden age of Aries. They began fighting in Taurus, because that's what bulls do. They fight each other. And that's why they actually have it in front of the corporations out in the world. Why the stock market is actually represented by the bull is because this is when the fighting began, because this is the earth cycle where they became materialistic and they wanted more power. They wanted more control. The corruption began here. And then as they went into Aries, they were divided in their thought forms. So there were 2 trains of thought that sprouted out from Aries. And then it fell down to the feet from all the wars and things that were happening, because the yang energy dominated, which was the male energy. Very powerful energy. It was the light of fire. It was the Aries. So now we're going into this time period here where we're in the air cycle of knowing and ideas and stuff. Then we're going into Capricorn, which is another earth sign, which I propose, and this is based on just my inner feelings of how I feel about Capricorn. The symbol of Capricorn is earth and water serpent. And what it's going to represent, I feel, is rise of the hybrids. We're going to see more hybrid beings come about during the age of Capricorn, where there's man and animal blends, because it's earth and water. So we're going to see all kinds of crazy stuff there. That's where all this notion of centaurs and all these mythological creatures come from. That's going to be seen again on the earth, because there's nothing new under the sun. So moving along, each age is going to bring about a different idea that the souls can experience. That's all it is. So there's nothing truly to get worried about. It's just to become into the awareness of all these crazy aspects of what our consciousness can do. Now we're going into currently the 5D new earth, which is based on this. It's not that we're going anywhere different. We're still in this construct, because it's part of us. The entire universe, one voice system, is rising right now. So we're going to come back in with the inward breath of Brahma. And as long as you can walk, this would be the golden mean right here in the middle. If you can walk this path of awareness, of just being an observer, not really going into lower states of consciousness, not really feeding into what other people are experiencing, with trauma, drama, all kinds of things that are of a lower nature. Just be the observer, console them, but be an observer and try not to feed your energy into it too much, because it can bring you back down. And that's kind of the whole concept of this idea of the new earth, is just being able to see things for what they truly are, and measuring yourself amongst all of it. So here we can employ shadow work. Notice when you judge or criticize or blame people. So just pause in that moment, reflect. Less reaction, more reflection. What in yourself are you avoiding by focusing externally? Are you not working on yourself? Are you working on becoming better? Are you just expressing yourself outwardly at everything that is out here, blaming others for things that happen to you or whatever? We got to become more responsible beings. When you feel jealousy, anger, or self-pity, pause and ask, what core belief is underneath this feeling? Why am I sensing this? Why am I, blaming someone else? Practice seeing yourself in other people. Practice radical responsibility for your emotions and reactions rather than blaming others. Be honest about your shadow thoughts and fears, then remind yourself what is actually true. Because you're believing in darkness and dark thoughts and dark aspects. You could possibly be controlled by these egregores or these thought form entities or archons. That's basically what this is stating, is like, come into your own knowing, try to be your best self forward. So here's a karma cleanse for people. Be grateful, act with love, check your motives, watch your attitude, and forgive everything. There's that whole saying about forgive those who trespass against you, because they know not these different spiritual aspects of what they're truly doing. Sometimes we forget the things, that how we are manifesting through our emotional states, what we are experiencing in our own reality. When you start manifesting love and acting in love, you begin to manifest that all around you. You become lighter than air and you radiate outwards, and people see it and they are drawn to you like magnets. Look at children, for example. People love to interact with children. Why? Because children aren't judging people. Because children have no vices. They have no concept of corruption. They only know true light. That is what it means to be spiritual again, is to lose all of the fear of self-doubt, self-pain, thinking that someone's constantly judging you. Forget about all of it. It doesn't matter. You are experiencing this reality. So what do you want to experience? Do you want to experience the benefit of everything? Or do you want to fall back in line with all this darkness and corruption in the world? I say we move forward. Let's move forward together in light and love and unify. And let's make this world a better place. Let's keep going. Grab hands with your neighbor and your friends and people you don't know, because we're going into the future.
Come on, people, now shine on your brother.
Exactly. Kumbaya, my lord. You grab hands and circle around. So what you can control and what you can't. Everything under control is out there. Is what happens, what other people think of you, the outcome of your efforts, how others take care of themselves. You can't worry about all that. The past, the future, actions of others, opinions of others. This is all in your control. Your boundaries, your actions, your goals, what you give your energy to, how you speak to yourself, how you handle your challenges. That's all in your control, because you can control yourself, but you cannot control others and other things, events that happen around you. Just stop and reflect for a moment. Why is this happening? I do that all the time. And I know most of the time when my car gets some little thing broken, I'm like, okay, what did I do? What thought did I have that was bad? Let me think. Did I say something? And I look back in my own history of what I've done, and I'm like, oh, maybe I did something I wasn't supposed to. Like maybe I had a thought that I wasn't supposed to. So here's another thing to consider.
Bad thoughts break cars.
Exactly. No, it's true. You got your 2 battery cables connected to the steering wheel. Guess what that does? That energy goes right into your car. I am not what you think I am. You are what you think I am.
You muted yourself.
Oh, sorry. I accidentally hit that button. I was trying to click on these other buttons. Yeah, no, that is my presentation.
That was a great presentation. Great energy, easy to understand, easy to follow, and not boring. So you hit on all of the positive notes. And anybody that's a fan of Franz Barden is a friend of mine. Franz is a legend. I mean, probably one of the greatest teachers of all time when it comes to hermetics and taking out the woo and taking out all the mystery and the fluff and the big words and stuff that you're just like, well, he just tells you how it is. And he's like, look, you can read this book, but it doesn't mean you're going to be an expert. You're going to have to still practice it in order to get to these levels. Yeah, I'm glad you brought Franz up. He needs more recognition. I need to interview his son or his grandson. He's on YouTube. I need to see if I can put it together with him. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that would be amazing. Yeah, that would be great. I have all 3 of the books. Because I am doing Journey of Selfhood with some other people where we go through all of the literature that Franz Barton has, but we also incorporate some astrotheology and astrology and the tarot, zodiac. We're trying to like incorporate many different things in the Sunday meetings that I have. So, but it's fun, to kind of get together with other people to try to learn it all. So that's the whole concept, because I don't know anybody that teaches all of this stuff in one unit. So, did you max headroom on me?
Yeah, for a minute. So real quick and finishing, shout out to your YouTube channel, shout out to your website, and you're an amazing artist. So when I start to how do I put this? When I start to collect art again, I've kind of had to take a break because I was spending so much money on art that Kristen's, she's like, and I'm like, I know it's, some people have bad habits, and like, so I have totally downsized. We're downsizing the house, just sold the mobile command center. Because you know what it's like when you got a lot of stuff, but then you run out of money and it's like, wait, I don't need all this stuff. Let's just build up a homestead, let's have a nice little homestead. Let's have a nice studio for the podcast. And then we can do some more traveling again. I haven't even been able to travel that much because our rent here is just insane. So anyway, I'm diverting, but yeah.
No, absolutely. This is what's going to happen too, going forward. We're going to become less materialistic. The people who are truly going to become spiritual are going to release the earthly desires and seek the light within and that connectivity to it. And that's found out here in nature, because nature is holding the balance, waiting for us to return.
Speaking of nature, I can hear some roosters in your background there.
That's my rooster. He showed up one day. It's so weird how I had these chickens just wander up into my yard. And I asked my neighbor, I said, "Are these your chickens?" He's like, "No." But I suspect that he may have let that rooster go. I've had the rooster for about a month and a half now. And I'm like, well, I don't mind him. He's a red rooster, and I think he'll eventually get mean at some point. But it's funny how he kind of protects his flock, So I just let him out there, and I'll go out there. He'll come running up to me. We'll see what happens in the future. Cool.
Are you getting eggs out of the deal by the other?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Like, I want the chickens to free range though, because when I see them in cages, like I've had the chicken in cages. And you can tell that they really don't want to eat the man-made food, especially once they've been let out into nature. They don't want to eat man-made stuff. They want to go out and they want to eat bugs and discover. Discovery is the greatest thing for any consciousness. That goes for all animals, all people. Everything in existence is about discovery. And that's what we're doing now. But the chickens are amazing. When they discover something, they get so excited, and it's funny to watch the consciousness of everything all around.
I think that was one of the most beautiful things I've heard in a very long time. And I wrote it down. Discovery is the greatest thing for any consciousness. You are so right about that. Absolutely. That's being the change right there. And, like the other day, I woke up and there was a black widow on the shower wall, and I was like, oh man, well, I don't want to hurt it. I'm just going to let him out. And I think it was a male black widow, because I couldn't tell if it didn't seem to have like the red dot, but it was a black widow. So I let it outside. And then as soon as I let it outside and I came back in, I'm like, oh, it's way too cold outside, man. I got to let it back in. So I went outside to let it back in, and it was just literally, I was outside for less than a minute and it froze, and I felt so bad. I was trying to wake it up.
Oh my gosh.
I'm like, come on, buddy. Come on. I waited all day to get back. And no. So the point is, if you see a black widow and you want it to survive and it's like 5 degrees outside, figure out something else. But black widows can be kind of dangerous too, you know. I mean, so if you got kids, you don't want your kid to get bit by a black widow, you know. So I was like, okay, what are my options here? I don't want to hurt the black widow, but yeah, poor thing froze to death.
Oh my gosh, put it under your house. Do you have a way to put it under your house next time?
It would have froze to death under the house. It's freaking cold out here. It's super cold. But that was weird. Yeah, that was like a whole learning experience for me. When you first wake up, there's like this black widow, and you've got this thing going through your head, like, all life is precious, and then you're trying to save it, and then you don't, and then you feel bad. You know. So anyway, it's like one of those things.
It's true, because that we're becoming more compassionate to other things, other life forms. I know I am trying to train myself not to harm the roaches that I see, but to just get them out. The chickens love the roaches, by the way. So I'm like, if you find the chicken, you're on your own. You know? So they come in because we got pine trees. I got pine trees right next to my studio, and they'll come in here. I'll see the little bodies and carcasses from the cats playing with them. I'm like, oh my gosh, you know, I need to get the chickens off the building.
Why do you think we're so creeped out by cockroaches? Like, and just there's something subconscious to human nature that we're like literally. Did they? Oh, I know. Giant cockroaches took out the last generation of humanity. It was giant freaking cockroaches. That's why we're so scared.
Well,
they came down, lasers.
I'm based on myself. I know, right?
Eat the humans. Zap them.
Based on myself, I know it's how the upbringing was, how I was taught as a child to hate them and to fear them, you know, to be like, oh, they're gross. Oh, get rid of them. That's really where, you know, I feel like my loathing of cockroaches, or, you know, most bugs and insects came from. I'm not afraid of them, and I'm not afraid of most things, snakes and all that. I usually find a snake and I'll move it about. I actually found a copperhead out in my yard, and I just basically got a stick and I moved him to the other yard. You know, like, you can go in the woods. But stuff like that. I mean,
the neighbor.
Well, it was more woodsy. Like, I've got, it's actually part of my yard, but it's more woodsy. And then you have like, it's like a barrier of woods. And I was like, you just go in the woods, go that way, get away from the chicken pen, you know. That's all we can do, is take care of our world, and our consciousness is coming into that, and how we're actually destroying it right now. Like, looking around, looking at all the poisoning. The Great Awakening is all about awareness of every level, and how we've been complacent and compliant in actually helping to destroy our world. Now it's time to go, oh, wait a minute, I don't want to do that anymore. What can I do? What can we do as a collective to come in and say, we don't want to use plastic anymore. Let's get it out. Let's use natural cloth. That's another thing. It's hard to find cotton clothes or natural fiber clothing like wool and cotton and bamboo. They've been putting all the synthetic fibers in the clothes because it also stifles the energy or frequency that we emit from our bodies. And one weird thing before we have to cut off, I was trying to heal my mother with a crystal, and I had on this synthetic outfit that my sister-in-law had given me, and I noticed that I couldn't get the crystal to retain my consciousness, because you can feel it. By touching the crystal, you can feel your consciousness is being stored in it. And you're like, I was like, what is happening? And I looked and I went, okay, maybe I need to get these clothes off. So I took one article off, and then I tried it and it wouldn't work. So I took the other one off, and then it started working. I was like, okay, so that absolutely is a scientific experiment that can be done and proven that the frequency is being stifled by the synthetic fibers, because it's plastics, it's polyester and all these things. And that is very septic to life. Just another thing, another little factoid of awakening and realization to come to.
Well, we have many opportunities, ladies and gentlemen, and I want to thank you all for being here with us, watching the show live on the website, leakproject.com. We do live shows almost every day, sometimes 2 or 3 shows a day. They're always free in the live feeds. If you miss the live show, you get access to the archives as a premium member. It's less than $10 a month. And that greatly helps Leak Project continue to pay the bills. So thank you for your support. We just put about another $2,500 into the live streaming option so that we can live stream for free. And yeah, and if you can't afford a membership and there's a show you really want to watch in the archives, send me a link. I'll take care of you. And Ellen, you are awesome. So thank you so much for being a guest on Leak Project. And will you please one more time real quick give a shout out to your YouTube channel?
Yes.
And how people can watch your podcast?
My YouTube channel is ERA, E-R-A, of my ways. And I'm also on Rumble and BitChute. And it's such a slow process to get the uploads onto the other channels. I do it when I have time. So I'm kind of behind all my uploads. I don't have as many videos on Rumble and BitChute right now. But ERA, E-R-A, of my ways. Yeah, and I've been talking a lot about the darkness, trying to raise awareness around the darkness right now, because I feel like it's part of my purpose to really illuminate and shine light on dark things so that people can start to learn symbolism and to be able to recognize things for what they are.
Don't stay in the dark too long, though, because
no. You say I wear white. I'm wearing more white than ever. And like I said, I work with crystals and I do hypnosis and I try to help people and do all these other things. So I dip in and I dip out because it's yin and yang. So
hello.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Rex, and I'll see you again real soon.
Yeah, absolutely. And have a beautiful day, everybody. Thanks, Ellen.
Bye.
You're awesome.